Hi everyone, thank you for joining me, Elisa DeFalco OT today. And our topic is donning and doffing compression garments. And this is an area of particular struggle for patients, especially if they're home alone. And the goal here is to be independent and being able to don and doff them. And we'd like to do that time effectively and cost effectively. So it may make you feel better to know that as we were initiated into the world of lymphatic drainage as therapists, one of the things we had to do was go behind closed doors and attempt donning and doffing a compression garment. And I will tell you, my first time was really a sight to behold. So what you need to know right from the get-go is that these are made of rubber, so they are not pantyhose, okay? These are not going to behave the same way. And you probably know that if you've ever been in a tug of war with them. So I'm going to show you some cost and time saving strategies here. I'm going to back up to the table, but before you even begin there, the lower extremity is usually the most difficult garment to put on and take off. And that would require two actions from you before you even put a garment on. You need to be able to bend your knee. So I need flexion and extension. And I also need you to be able to cross your leg over, okay? If you're able to do these two actions, I've been able to successfully get patients to be independent with donning and doffing the compression garment. So first thing, what we're going to do, I'm sitting on the table. I'm just gonna roll up my pant leg here, and I have a thigh-high garment. What I'm going to do is turn the garment inside out, about halfway. Like so. Make sure you know where the heel is at, okay? Now, my budget tool is a little plastic sandwich baggie. Very often the donning tools that patients have over time, they lose track of them. They may fall apart for one reason or the other. You can still don a garment using a plastic sandwich baggie, which I'm going to place over the toe area. The next tool you're going to need are rubber gloves. And I'm just wondering if anyone out there can tell me the difference between the pink ones or the yellow ones. If you said the color, that's obvious, yes. But let me tell you, the pink pair were $20. These, I got a budget-friendly store, 2 pairs of yellow rubber gloves for $1, okay? So we're on the budget menu. Pink is out of style for 20 bucks right now. We're going to use the yellow gloves. And I know it takes an extra minute to do this, but you know what? It's going to save you time when you try to put the garment on, and those nasty creases that you get in the garment that start to later become very painful areas because the garment is gathered. This will eliminate it. Okay. So now we're going to take the garment, place it over the tip of the toe. Oh, and look at how easy that is because of the plastic. The sandwich bagging makes it so much easier. And now I'm going to pull it up to here. Don't continue to pull from here. This is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. They'll take it here and they'll keep pulling. And what's happening is you're actually keeping all the compression distally, in fact, a little too much. And up here, it's all stretched out. And then what happens is you kind of get this bulging effect where the edema up here is bulging. That's because you're not getting the compression the way it needs to be. So let's pull this up a little bit at a time. Okay, now I'm gradually going to work it over the ankle in small segments. Okay, this is going to feel so much better. See how much easier it goes on? I'm not in the tug of war, I'm not stretching, I'm not putting my fingernails through the garment. And actually, I'm not hardly even pulling. So if you have issues with your hands, arthritis, or anything like this will help you. You don't have to tug so much and pull. Okay, and see, now you notice I'm bringing it all the way up. So rather than pulling it to where I want it to be, I gradually work it up from the bottom. Now watch what's going to happen here at the end. Now with this little piece, no creases behind the knee. And then we can just remove the sandwich bag. Sandwich bag, pennies on the dollar, $1 pair of gloves. And here we go. Total comfort, no creasing, no binding. I'd like to, at the end, I'd like to just do one more run behind the leg because this is the area in the popliteal fossa where a lot of people get that gathering. Rubber gloves solve the problem. Stand up. Totally comfortable. So that part was actually the easier, I think, of the two. It's actually now the removal of the garment that eludes people sometimes. So let me show you that. So 2 things I ask my patients to do is, number 1, make sure you got a nice, sure surface nearby. You're going to take the garment, again with the rubber gloves, gently remove it. Now, watch what's going to happen here. Let me show you what not to do. A lot of times, patients will take this garment and they'll push it like this all the way down. What's going to happen when you start to pull, and I've seen people do this, okay? Especially if you have hip issues or knee issues, this is a bad scenario. I've even seen people who have fallen off their bed from trying to do this. Don't do that. When you get the garment to this point, do what you did when you were a kid. Do you remember this? I'm going to point right down to the floor here. Watch what I'm going to do. Like this. Gradually step back, one piece at a time. Okay, now you're not using your hands. You're not throwing yourself off balance. I'm steadying myself at the table, and all I needed was some knee flexion and extension to be able to successfully get out of this garment on my own. Okay? I know there's some fancy schmancy devices. Trust me, we have purchased them all. I have tried them all. And when you're dealing with upper level garments with a lot of strength, or I'm talking 30, 40, 50 millimeters of mercury, sometimes those devices don't work as well, and they do get expensive. So I hope this tool is going to help you in your practice if you're a practitioner, and for you if you are a patient and you're at home and was wondering, can I really get in and out of this thing by myself? The last thing I want to see you do is cutting your way out of your garment because you couldn't do it. You couldn't get out, and I know because it's happened before. So we thank you so much for joining us. Hey, if you got questions, we're lymphdoctors@gmail.com. Thank you so much. So my friends, I want to help you also with the application of a bandage. This one is one of my favorite go-to bandages, but before I show you how to put it on for self-care or for when perhaps the patient is flying, traveling, has to go to work, has to shower on their own, and then reapply the bandage. I have a technique that works really well, but the very first thing, an issue, is the correct bandage. So let me show you. This is one I purchased right down the street from one of the pharmacies, and if you look, you can see why they call this a high working and high resting pressure. I could actually probably use this to do some therapeutic exercise if I wanted to. But you can see obviously how it stretches. And this is one of the most or better known bandages that people are familiar with, and they try to substitute the bandages that we use for actual lymphatic therapy with these that you find just about everywhere. And I recommend not doing that, simply because this high working, high resting pressure, when you wear it long term, if you can stand it, by the time you start feeling the throbbing, it could be interfering with blood supply and nerves as well. So this is not the proper bandage for lymphatic drainage, where you would actually be able to wear it for a length of time. This one is called the Ideal Bind or Ideal Bandage. It's pronounced differently, but take a look. Note, it's not a high working, high resting pressure. It doesn't have the amount of stretch that the other one has. And the beauty of that means when applied properly, the person can wear it up to 24 hours. So I want to show you the more difficult of the two is obviously trying to bandage your own arm. So this is what you want to do. I have the bandage angle up, facing up, not down this way, up. And you're going to have your palm to the ceiling. So palm up, bring this piece around and roll the hand over. Okay, now it's secure. It's not going anywhere. And I'm going to do a little snug pull medially and laterally. And then gradually going to work up my arm. I'm going to bring my arm a little closer so you can see the distance between these is probably about ½ an inch. Okay, keep the bandage close. Usually if a person's losing control of the bandage, it's because they got it way out here and then it starts to roll and it gaps and they're doing something like this. If you keep it close, you have more control. So here we go. And just a little snug pull when you're medial and lateral. We don't want to make it as tight as you can because that might be too tight. Now, as I come up the arm, I'm going to gradually start widening these circumferential turns. So here we are, we're going to get wider. And now when I get to about here, what I'm going to do and what I show my patients to do is bring the arm down, or you can stand up if you need to, and gather it here, this way. And with the remaining, there we go. And I'm going to use a piece of tape to secure it. Tape, as far as tape, if you're using masking tape, actually it's the cheaper tape that's usually better because sometimes the other is too strong and sticky and the glue remains on the bandage. If you've ever dealt with bandages and taping, you want to be very careful. I'm actually using clear packing tape. But every time I've seen duct tape or anything like that, it just leaves too much glue behind, and then you try to wash the fabric and it remains on it. This seems to work really well. It's got it nice and secure. Notice we have smaller passes, more narrow passes, about ½ inch, and as we go up, we start graduating to about 1 inch or larger. That's creating the compression gradient. So we're having a little more compression distally and less as we go up proximally. And that's the idea behind it, because you want the directional flow of lymph to travel from distal to proximal, up to the axilla. If you or your patient makes a mistake, and it happens, you'll know pretty quickly because if you reverse the gradient, in other words, if you put too much pressure up here proximally and not enough distally, you'll know by morning, because usually the hand will look like sausages and, you know, the fingers, obviously. So what you would do in that case, remove the bandage, do the self-lymphatic drainage. You'll watch within 30 minutes to an hour, the hand will start to relieve, the flow will start to go back. But this does take a little practice. So in my practice, for self-care for patients, I always want them to know what to do in an emergency situation or between visits or maintenance. So we sit down and I show them and demonstrate this, and I have them right next to me and we walk through it. Now, how do you know that you've got the right amount of compression? A couple things. Check the color of the hands. Let's see if is it turning purple? Is it tingling? Is it burning? Is it itching? And the other thing you want to see is thumb to nose. Okay? This is a firm bandage. It's like a soft cast. It's firm, but it doesn't fall off. And it's also not so tight where if you see a patient doing this, trying to bring their nose to the bandage because this is too tight here, then we need to release some of that pressure. So this is your simple tutorial on how to put a compression bandage on. This one is light, it's user-friendly, it's washable, and obviously you saw it went right directly next to the skin, and therefore it's also easy to hide it if one needs to underneath their clothing if you're working and doing some other things in public. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have questions, you know where to find us. It's Lymph Doctors, LYMPHDOCTORS @gmail.com.